Hi, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope you're having a great day. Today's a better day than yesterday. I will start there. And it was just one of those. Started Tuesday night, all the way through yesterday. Anxiety and other kinds of feelings, and can't even explain it. But anyways, what I did end up doing is I started dehydrating some onions. And right now I have the second batch going in my dehydrator, which is right here on a table next to me here out in the gazebo. And it smells like onions. My whole yard smells like onions. Yesterday, my yard smelled like onions because I wanted to get these done. And it's a lot of work, but I wanted to do it outside. For those of you who have never dehydrated onions, when you do it inside, it's just not a good thing to do. Because the first time I did it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I did it, and oh my heavens, my house smelled horrible. So I said, okay, I'll never do this again inside. I didn't think I would ever do it again. But I did. I did it. I started it yesterday. I had gotten at the farm stand last week 25 pounds of red onions, and I really like red onions, and I try to buy more of the red type cabbage, the red onions, the red peppers. I try to buy more red. And but they're here. They smell horribly. They smell like onions. It actually smells good. But I can't smell all my herbs. I can't smell all the other pretty smells that are out there. But it is nice to be out here. One thing I found last night, though, I wanted to stay on this. Last night as I was going to bed, I started looking up online to see if raccoons liked onions. And the reason I did was because I didn't want them to come open the door. I had this set to go until about midnight. And my husband said, "What are you worried about?" I said, "Well, if raccoons come, they could open the door and take the onions out." And he goes, "Do you really think a raccoon is going to come out and just pick it up and cart it off?" And I mean, he had me in stitches. And that's one thing that can take me out of some of my low times is I said, "Well, you just never know. Raccoons do miraculous things." So they didn't take it because I took the shelves out and brought them inside the house so that overnight I could let them air dry. I took the trays and put them around the house and I let them air dry. And no, it didn't make the house smell the way the yard smells today. But in this morning, they were just about done. And because I wanted to get this new batch going, I decided I'll just put them in the oven. And that's another way that you can dehydrate onions if you don't mind the smell. But because they were 95% dry, it didn't really make a difference in the kitchen. And even after I was done, it didn't smell. All we smelled was me chopping up the rest of the onions that were there. And I have a slicer for this. But the reason I didn't show you, that ugly onion cry is just not attractive. And I'm just not going to let you see me like that. So, but this is the first batch of them. Aren't they beautiful? This was dehydrated for, I think, about 8 to 10 hours. And I just let it do it outside. The timing can be variable based on what the weather's like outside. Yesterday it was kind of like a moist, damp day, so of course it's going to take a little bit longer. Today's not so bad. I probably should have waited till tomorrow, but I kind of want the project done today. So that's something that I got done. And even though yesterday was a rough day for me, part of it was the chicken coop. Just an update. We're pretty much done with the chicken coop. All we have left to do is to make the nesting boxes, but they're still young. They're not popping out eggs yet. But so we got those done. We did get them a nice roost inside, and David worked on that, and he worked on the screen top to the run. So they were outside when we were putting the roost in, and it was just so neat. When we opened the door, they went running in to find out, what did you do in here? Because I swept it out, I cleaned their bedding, gave them new, put diatomaceous earth on the bottom for the bug issues if they ever have it, put the new bedding out, and they came in and they just like looked around and they hopped right up on the roost, and we made it 2 feet above for them, and it's perfect. One by one they went right up there, and so that was really delightful. And so hopefully we'll be done soon with it. But for now, I think part of the reason that I had a real rough day, first of all, it was overcast, and that can have an impact. But it's like the chicken coop has just been taking so much of our time that I don't have time to get other things done, or the things that I need David's help with, he can't help me, because I always take a look at what needs to be done. And I have to kind of like, what's the priority? The coop was important because we need to make it secure so that the raccoons don't get to them, or the hawks, or the owls. So now it's pretty well as secure as we can make it. So that stresses off. But I also had some things I needed his help with in order to get out of the greenhouse and out into the garden. So, oh, do you want to come sit next to me, dear? As you all know, he is not camera happy. He doesn't like it. He will if I encourage him strongly. Basically what he's doing is he's collecting all our hummingbird feeders, and he's putting new food in for them. And I'm dehydrating one of my, I want to show you. One of the things that I dehydrate, I just put this on top of the dehydrator, and it's going to dehydrate, is bee balm. Isn't that beautiful? I love bee balm. And why do I love it? First of all, it brings bees, brings butterflies, it brings hummingbirds, and David walking over here actually reminded me of that. But right before the night, before they go kind of good night, I cut them, and you can cut down to the leaf, go right where the branch is off, and I take them in and I dehydrate them, because I use bee balm medicinally as well. I use them for migraine. I use it for a variety of things, and I will do a separate video on the uses of bee balm, so I can keep this kind of, I'm trying to keep my videos at a reasonable time frame. So seeing that and having my husband's help to get the heavy things, I started my squashes inside and a few things like that, and there's some things that some animals just come in and just like to take, and I've planted squashes and stuff like that before, where as the plant starts coming up, a mole or something else would come and take them. So I decided I was going to try starting them in the greenhouse, and they've done well, but I needed to take them out because I'm growing them in totes as well, in hopes that that helps. So I needed his help because while he's working on the chicken coop, I couldn't do this, and since that was a priority, I needed to do that. So I did other things that I could do, but I was getting antsy. I was getting frustrated because here we are, the beginning of July, kind of late to be gardening. On the bright side, though, everything's planted, everything's coming up. Well, for the most part, things are coming up. I got specialty seeds for sunflowers. I've got tomatoes growing. I don't understand, other than the fact when I did my planting, because to keep costs down, because it's something we have to do, is I do this certain method of how I use leaves, and then I use cardboard, and I make layers almost like I do in my compost. And then I used soil that I had used in the gardens before. So I brought things in, I used the compost. Well, guess what's in the compost? When you throw your tomato plants in, when you're done, if there's any tomatoes on it, they're seeds. So I think that's the reason. And I kind of chuckle about it. The only thing I'm not chuckling about is if it's all cherry tomatoes. But I have a lot that I planted that are not cherry tomatoes. But I'm disappointed, honestly, that the sunflowers I started are a bunch of tomatoes came up. So I got to go through and weed out the tomatoes, plant those, creatively garden through all my other gardens and see if they'll take root. And they will. I'm not sure how they'll fruit because some of my other gardens are, they don't have as much sun as tomatoes actually need. But you know what? I've got nothing to lose because they're volunteer tomato plants. But I'm hoping I see some sunflowers in there. We did pick up a sunflower set because part of the reason I want to do that is we consume sunflowers, but I also feed them to the birds, but our chickens like them too. So it's kind of like one of those things that I want to do for them as well. But anyways, that's what I've done. I won't keep this too long because I have a lot on my mind, and I think that's for another topic. And I would like to just leave this message about the joy that just getting something like this done does for me. It doesn't for other people. Other people might just buy it, and that's perfectly fine. In this day and time where we're not sure what's going to be on the shelves, I'm looking at how do I stretch our dollars. You know, that's what I have. That's my job, is to make sure that it's stretched well. It's the only reason I don't like using the dehydrator, because it does use a lot of energy. Pressure canning food doesn't use as much. Plus, I'm using my gas range. Excuse me. So those are the things that I'm thinking about. And we like to eat fruits and vegetables. And yes, I've shared it before, I like my meats. But it will be nice to have a few items. Will I have enough to last as long as the people who are able to get the freeze-dried items? No. I mean, I did it right. If I get 2 of these, I will probably do the vacuum seal on this. That is not dry canning. I have a video on dry canning. It's not something the oven dry canning. I don't do that. And I know other people do. It's not safe, but having your items dried, you can put them in a canister, and you can put them in with these plastic lids, and you can also vacuum seal them. And I don't use my vacuum sealer with it. I use a brake bleeder. Yes, I use that. I have a video showing that. But this is what I'm hoping to do, and I'll do the same thing with the dried corn. Did I show you that? I have a cup left of the corn, and I'm not going to vacuum seal that because that'll be used up. I'm going to throw that into a soup or give it to the chickens and stuff. So, and one other thing, and I don't think I mentioned it, chickens like onions. They do. I did not know that. So while I was researching about the raccoons who might steal my dehydrator away, that was my husband's idea, not mine. I said, okay, can chickens have it? And they actually love them. So I brought some out, and they were like in heaven. And then later, I had a few more of the skins left over of the ones that I was chopping up. And I brought those out along with some apples. I gave them part of my apple, and I gave them some blueberries and stuff. And they loved it. I mean, they like their feed, they like their grains, because they need that. But it's a treat to give them, in their mind, a treat to get that. And you know what? It's a treat for all of us to have fresh fruit and vegetables too. So it's a win-win when I have extras. But all the other extra onion skins and stuff like that, because I take one layer off, which is still onion, I throw that into the freezer along with all my other vegetables and fruits and stuff that are extras. And I will put that into a pot to make some vegetable broth. That's pretty much what I make. But if the weather is right next week, I think I saw rain coming in, I might make a rotisserie chicken and then just take the bones and stuff and throw them in with some vegetables and make some chicken broth. And since I started doing that, I don't have to spend money for the store purchased broths. It's not that I don't want to support stores making money or anything like that. I just like, if we have something that can make a product that I don't have to purchase, then that's what I do. So that's something that if you're not doing, consider keeping your scraps of vegetables, and I know it doesn't seem like a lot. Put them in a corner of your freezer, and then you make a broth. And then after that, those scraps can still go into your compost bin. So to me, like, these onions are going full circle. They came from the farm. They came to my house. They've gone dehydrated. I've shared some with the chickens, and I've got some in the freezer so that I can make a broth. I would like to encourage people to think outside the box. Oh, and then it goes back to the compost so that I have soil to work with the following year. So it's kind of like a circle of life for our fruits and vegetables and stuff. And I would like to hope that people are thinking about that, since food is it's getting harder to come by. The food, when it finally arrives in the grocery store, and I've shared this before, when it gets there, it's not as fresh. Like, I was able to work with my onions 6 days later, and I had no problems. Whereas before, when I bought onions at the grocery store, I have to use them right up. So I would only buy one or two. Whereas now, if I buy in bulk like that, when it's an item I can't grow, I still have my carrots to do. And I did everything in an order. Like the berries first, because they could go bad first, and then I did the corn, and then I done the onions, and then I have the carrots and potatoes are left. But I can also, if I put them in a cool area in the cellar, and I haven't done that yet, they would last. I just don't have the sand to put them in, because I guess that's what you need. So I'm going to do some other things with those items. And I don't think I'm going to dehydrate potatoes, but I should probably. I just don't know if I will. But I am hoping that right now I'm doing well emotionally. But I will come back and share a little bit about those of us who deal with anxiety, how it affects us, depression, and how we respond to the world. I'm going to keep it separate because I wanted this to be about the onions and about the food. But earlier when I did a post, I started talking about that, and I realized how important it is. It's going to be a tough video for me, so it might not happen today, but it might. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day. I hope you consider dehydrating, and you can dehydrate in your oven. You don't need a fancy dehydrator. One of my dehydrators that I use for some lighter things, I saw that the tray got ruined. It melted, and I don't know why, so I can't use that dehydrator anymore. So that has to go. So I'm down to my last one. And I mean, I had a round one, and now I have this, and I was looking at a brand that I was considering, but it's gone up $20, and I'm just like, nope, if God wants me to dehydrate, that price will come down to where I can afford it. But I can also use my oven, and I'm going to try making a sun dehydrator. So I'm not going to let the rising prices get to me on things that I use to preserve food for my family. I'm just going to stay positive and not get discouraged there. So that being said, I hope you take an opportunity, even if it's one onion. So buy two at the store, use one. Take that other one, cut off the ends, cut the skin off, throw that into your freezer, chop up the rest, and put it on a cookie sheet, okay, on your lowest oven temp. If your oven cannot go down to 130, mine only goes to 170. Put it on parchment paper, put it in there, and just let it dry. And you'll know when it's dry because when you go to touch it, and I can touch it. Let's see. I love the smell of dried onions. But it snaps. It snaps. And I don't know if you could hear that, but I'm not going to break up all my onion for you. You'll know that it's done. If it's not, it'll be pliable. So dried onion is crisp. But you can do that in your oven. And just turn it once with a spatula. Unless you lay it out really thin, you might not need to. So if you don't have a dehydrator, that's one way to do it. So you might not have a half-gallon jar. You might not be able to do that. But you can preserve if you have the money, and that goes along with everybody who's saying, oh, stock up a little bit. If you don't have much, because I mean, I go to the grocery store, and in order to go to the farm stand, it was a month before I was able to go grocery shopping. So I decided to just go to the farm stand. It was just easier. And I got what I wanted, and I knew it was fresh. The truck came in, and it was all fresh stuff. But if I didn't have that, and all I had was $25 to get the basics, and right now, I used to be able to spend $50 at the grocery store for the two of us a week, 40 to 50. I can't do that anymore. So for those of you who are struggling, I get it. I get it. Everything's gone up. But if you can get an extra onion, try it. See if it works. What else could you try? You could try the corn. If you get a couple extra ears of corn, cut the corn off. Be careful now. That could be dangerous. But be careful. Get the corn off the ears and dehydrate some of that. You can use your oven. And if you can go down to 130, you can shut the door. If you can't, mine's 170, I leave the door ajar. So those are some options to save some money and put a little bit of food aside for a meal when you're not in the mood to cook or to go out shopping. And I know a few people who don't like to go, and I understand. So give that a shot on your good days. Put something up. Anyways, I'm going to get going. I hope the volume worked out well. I tried something different. So hopefully if you turn your volume up, you'll be able to hear me better. If not, I still hope you have a great day, and I'll keep working on the volume. Have a great day. Subscribe, like, comment, and have a blessed day. God bless.